Hello everyone, welcome to my class again. In today's class, we will continue going through forex markets. In last class, we went through some backgrounds about forex markets and the foreign exchange rates. But in today's class, we will focus on the long-run scenario. We will discuss the price levels and the exchange rate in the long run. Let's quickly preview what we will go through in today's class. First, I will give you a brief introduction about low of one price. Next, according to the low one price, we will derive a theory. And the theory we call purchasing power parity theory, so-called PPP theory. After that, according to the PPP theory, we will construct a long-run model of exchange rates. And this approach we call mountain approach. Last, finally, we will discuss the shortcomings of purchasing power parity. If you want to apply the concept of PPP into our real-life situation, actually, we will face some problem. So that's why I will deliver the shortcomings of PPP theory. In this session, let's discuss the behavior of exchange rates. Because we want to construct models or financial models to make prediction on future spot rate. We want to make prediction on the pattern of exchange rates, but we have to figure out the exchange rate behaviors. Okay, so we want to discuss what models can predict how exchange rates behave. In this chapter, we will develop another model building on a long-run approach. Long-run means in long-run scenario or situation, there is a sufficient amount of time for all prices. Actually, the prices represent the prices of all goods and the services. The all prices are to adjust to market condition changes, so that their markets and the money markets are in equilibrium. That means in the long-run scenario, we assume all prices of goods and services can be adjusted when market condition changes. So that's why we call the long run. Actually, in the long run, how to define the long run? The main difference between the long run and the short run is the price adjustment. If we have a sufficient of time for the prices to adjust when market condition changes, we call the long run scenario. Otherwise, we call the short run. For example, the prices maybe will cover the prices of goods or services, even the wages, right? If we provide the labor force to your job or to your employer, right? And the employer will pay the salary or wage for the workers or laborers, right? So the price of labor force actually is a wage or salary, is a kind of the price. According to the real life situation, most of the workers or laborers will sign the contract with the employers, right? So during the time schedule with the contract, right? If the contract will not, when the contract executed in this time period, actually the wage and the salary will remain the same. That's why in the time period we call the short run. If we have a sufficient of time for wages, for price of goods and services can be adjusted when market condition changes, we call the long run. Otherwise, we call the short run. Because prices are allowed to change in the long run, and they will influence the interest rates and the exchange rates in the long run model. That's why in this chapter, we will cover the long run scenario in the forex markets. Now, in this session, I would like to introduce low one price to all of you. What is low one price? Low one price, as the title of the page 当掉。哎，刚当掉哎，没关系。
你这边再重，不好意思再重讲，因为他一直挑那个东西出来。
跳那个东西哦 ，OK 好，那我就从 low one price 开始，按剪的时候就把从这边开始剪掉，好不好 ？OK， 你赶快把它关掉哈。那我们从 low one price 开始哈。那我们就开始啊，你数3、2、1好了。
3、2。
In this line, I would like to introduce low one price to all of you. What is low one price? As the meaning of low one price, low one price simply says that the same good in different competitive markets must sell for the same price. But the preconditions, when low one price holds true, we must assume the other conditions, all preconditions must hold. The preconditions include we ignore transportation costs. We ignore the barriers between those markets. And when we engage in transaction, we have to ignore the transaction fee and so on. So if the preconditions hold, that means the low one price will hold true in real life situation. Okay, so let me give you an example to illustrate the point. Now here I give you example of the pizza markets. Okay, so you can image there are 2 restaurants across the street. Okay, one restaurant we can call restaurant A. The other restaurant we can call restaurant B. Actually, we assume the 2 restaurants will sell almost the same pizza for all customers. Now, we suppose the price of pizza at one restaurant is $20. Okay, maybe it's restaurant A. Restaurant A sell $20 pizza, while the price of the same pizza at the identical restaurant, we call restaurant B, across the street, he sell is more expensive pizza. The price of pizza equals $40. So restaurant B sell $40 pizza. Restaurant A sell $20 pizza. So due to the time, the price difference, what happened to the pizza markets? Here we assume for all customers, they think about no matter what kind of pizza they buy from any restaurant, they will consider the pizza almost the same. There is no difference between 2 restaurant pizza. Now, due to the time, the price difference, you can image what do you predict to happen in those markets or in pizza markets. I believe it's very easy to understand, right? You can draw a demand and the supply schedule to illustrate, to solve the problem, to discuss the scenario, right? Because restaurant A sell cheap pizza in the same location, while the restaurant B sell expensive pizza in the same location, right? So for all people, all customers in this region, most people would buy $20 pizza. Few would buy $40 ones, right? So what happened to the price of pizza in the markets? Initially, restaurant A sell cheap pizza, $20 pizza, right? And across street, we have another restaurant B sell $40 pizza. Due to the price difference, many people would buy cheap pizza instead of expensive pizza. So their behavior will affect the price of pizza in the 2 locations across street, right? So let's consider what happened to the pizza markets. Due to the price difference, many people will buy cheap pizza instead of expensive pizza. But how about entrepreneurs? Entrepreneurs, they will realize they will have easy profit to be made when the price difference across street for pizza markets, right? So entrepreneurs, would have an incentive to buy cheap pizza at cheaper location and sell it at expensive location for an easy profit, right? If they do that, for each pizza, they can make profit with $20, right? He can buy $20 pizza and then sell to the other location. Expensive location. Here we have two locations, right? The first one is restaurant A. Restaurant A located in region A or location A. In location B is restaurant B, sell $40. We can call $40 location or expensive location. So for entrepreneurs, they would like to buy $20 pizza at the cheap location and then sell to expensive location for easy profit. For each pizza, they can make profit with $20, right? Because for entrepreneurs, they buy $20 pizza and they sell to the expensive location for $40. They can make $20 for each pizza. So their behaviors, what happened to the pizza markets at two locations? Due to strong demand and the decreased supply in location A, right? In location A, initially the price of pizza equals $20, right? But due to many people will buy cheap pizza instead of expensive ones, or due to the other reason, the entrepreneurs will buy cheap pizza and then sell to the expensive location, right? So what happens? They will cause demand schedule move to the right, while the supply schedule for the cheap location will shift to the left. Okay, so due to strong demand and this decreases supply, the price of $20 pizza will tend to increase. Actually, here you can draw the supply and the demand schedule to illustrate the point. And what happened to the price of pizza at expensive location? At expensive location, due to the weak demand, because few people will buy expensive pizza, while more entrepreneurs, they will buy cheap pizza and sell to expensive location, cause increases supply at expensive location, right? So their behaviors for entrepreneurs or customers or consumers, their behavior will force demand schedule at expensive location shift to the left, and while supply curve or supply schedule at expensive location shift to the right. Finally, will cause the supply, the price of pizza at cheap expensive location tend to decrease. So their behavior, let me illustrate my point. Their behaviors, I mean consumer behaviors and the entrepreneurs' behavior, will cause price of pizza tend to increase at cheap location. Their behavior also force the price of pizza at expensive location tend to decrease. So their behavior will be continued to make easy profit until the price of pizza will sell the same price at two locations, right? So people will have incentive to adjust their behavior, and the prices will tend to adjust until one price is achieved across market or across the street, even all across the restaurants, right? So from this example, we have to figure out if the price difference appears in order to make easy profit, or for consumers or entrepreneurs or suppliers, they have incentive to change their behavior. Their behavior will force the price mechanism work until one price is achieved across the markets or across the restaurant. Finally, the two restaurants, if the pizza market achieve an equilibrium, the two restaurants will sell the same price pizza for consumers. And at this scenario, no one will take profit from this scenario. There is no easy profit, no arbitrary profit to be made if the price of pizza, the two locations or two restaurants sell the same price pizza, right? So here we can use the formula to illustrate my point. Okay. Now, the price of pizza will sell the same price. The price of pizza will be the same at the two locations across the street, right? So finally, the restaurant A, the price of pizza at the restaurant A will equal to the price of pizza at restaurant B, right? Now, let's consider the other scenario. In this scenario, we consider a price of pizza, a pizza restaurant. The first pizza restaurant, the restaurant is located in New York City. The other one located in Paris. The Paris is the capital city in France, right? So now, let's consider the two restaurants located in different cities, even in different countries. What happened to the low one price? Okay, if low one price holds true, what does that mean? That means the price of pizza, the pizza must sell the same price at two different locations or at two cities, right? But how to measure the price? If we cover two countries' price of pizza, we must convert the price of pizza in a common currency. It's very important, right? Because the restaurant is located in New York. The price of pizza, how to measure the price of pizza? They measure the price of pizza in terms of US dollar. The other restaurant is located in Paris, right? So in France, people live in France, they use the euro, right? So how to illustrate the price of pizza? So we have to use the euros to illustrate the price of pizza. Okay. So we measure the price of pizza in France in terms of euro. Now, if we want to make comparison, the price of pizza in two different countries, we have to measure. We have to using a common currency to measure the price, right? So here, let's back to the low one price. If low one price holds true, that means the price of the same pizza must sell the same price in two cities, right? And here we also assume the preconditions must hold. The preconditions are, we assume the pizza market are competitive markets. First is the first. Second, we ignore transportation costs, right? Because across countries, we must consider international trade. When people or entrepreneurs engage in the international trade, they have to pay the transaction costs, right? And between two countries, most of the situation, we will face the trade barriers, right? The trade barriers maybe include tariff, right? Import quota, and so on, right? So here, we set up several preconditions. The preconditions cover, first, the pizza markets must be competitive markets. More precisely to say, is perfectly competitive markets. Second, we ignore trade barriers across countries. Third, we ignore all kinds of costs when we engage in the international trade, such as we ignore transportation costs, we ignore transaction costs, right? Okay, now, if low one price also hold true in the pizza market across countries, here I want to use the formula to illustrate my point. From this scenario, from this example, if low one price holds true, that means the price of pizza in the US must equal to the price of pizza in France, right? And we measure in a common currency. In this common currency, we consider US dollar as a common currency, okay? So how to transfer the price of pizza in France into the dollars, we will use the nominal exchange rate. The capital E represent euro for dollar exchange rate. Okay. Now here let's define the notation for the formula. In this formula, as you can see, all equation you can see P pizza US. P pizza US stands for price of pizza in New York, and the P pizza France stands for price of pizza in Paris, and the capital E represent dollar to euro exchange rate, right? So if low one price holds true across countries, that means the same pizza must sell the same price. We measure in a common currency. The common currency is US dollar, right? So P pizza US must equal to current exchange rate times the P pizza France. Now, here I want to derive the PPP equation or PPP theory. According to previous example, what is PPP theory or PPP equation? So here I want to illustrate my point. PPP represent purchasing power parity, right? Purchasing power parity is the application of the law of one price across countries, right? Maybe we should back to the previous line. If law one price holds true, we can find out the condition must be held, right? The condition is P pizza US equal to P pizza France times current exchange rate, right? In order to measure the price of pizza in a common currency, we use the formula. But in this formula, we only consider one specific good. The one specific good is pizza, right? But if we want to derive the PPP theory, we not only consider pizza but also other goods and services, right? So here we will use almost the same concept, but we replaced P pizza by level of average prices in the US, and we consider not only a specific good pizza, we have to consider all kinds of goods and services in the country. So here we make some changes on previous formula, right? So purchasing power parity is application of low one price across countries, but now we not only consider pizza but also other goods and services, right? So the price, we have to use the level of average prices for all goods and services in this country, also the other country, right? More precisely to say, we have to consider all goods and services or for the representative groups of the basket of goods and services. For example, the formula is almost the same like previous line, right? But we make some changes. PUS, in previous slide, we used the price of pizza in the US, but now we have to consider a basket of goods and services in the US. Also, we consider the same basket of goods and services in Paris. We can make comparison with the level of average prices across countries in order to build up the PPP theory, right? So we apply the same concept, the concept of the low one price. We only replace low one price. We only consider a specific goods or service. But now we will have to consider a basket of goods and services, right? And we use the same formula, but we replace P pizza price by level of average prices in the US. The level of average prices in US for representative goods and services. Maybe we can consider, for example, I give an example to illustrate my point. Maybe we consider the basket of goods and services in the US will cover 200 kinds of goods or services, right? Also, we consider the same basket in France. If we buy the same basket of goods and services in France relative to US, okay, we can measure the level of average prices, right? And we can construct the formula. So PUS stands for the level of average prices in the US, while P France represent level of average prices in France. And the capital E is also dollar to euro exchange rate. So if we make a difference, we think about consider the difference, main difference between purchasing power parity equation and the low one price. The main difference comes from we at previous line, low one price, we only consider a specific goods or service. But in PP theory, we will cover a basket of goods and services or representative groups of goods and services. That's the main difference. Now, maybe I can illustrate the formula again. In previous formula, we know if PPP holds true, the level of average prices in the US must equal to the level of average prices in France. We measure in the common currency. That's why we have to use current exchange rate times the level of average prices in France, right? But now we rewrite the equation. How can we do that? Maybe we can back to the previous line. In previous line, as you can see, PUS equal to current exchange rate times P France, right? Now we move P France, the notation, on the left-hand side. So we will figure out how to determine current exchange rate across countries. The current exchange across countries will equal to the relative level of average prices across countries, right? We just shift P France on the left-hand side. So capital E will equal to PUS divided by P France. That's why we can rewrite the equation. So purchasing power parity implies that the current exchange rate across countries, the two countries are US and France, equal to the relative average prices across countries, right? So levels of average prices determine the exchange rate, right? Now maybe I should use an example to illustrate the formula. If the price level in the US is $20 per basket, if we buy the basket of goods and services, maybe the basket of goods and services will cover 300 kinds of goods and services. In the US, if you want to buy the basket of goods services, we have to pay $200. And while the price level in France will cost us 160 euros per basket, right? Now, if PPP holds true, PPP equation holds true, or PPP implies that the dollar to euro exchange rate will equal to the level of average prices across countries, right? So we can quickly calculate the current exchange rate. The exchange rate should be $200 divided by 160 euros, right? So the current exchange rate should be 1.25. 1.25 means €1 for $1.25 if PPP holds true. So purchasing power parity predicts that people in all countries have the same purchasing power with their currencies. From previous example above, €1 buy the same amount of goods as $1.25 if PPP holds true, right? So PPP holds true means per currencies, the same currencies, people in all countries have the same purchasing power with their currencies. So that's why €1, the purchasing power parity of €1, or the purchasing power of €1 equals the purchasing power of $1.25. But the precondition is PPP must hold, right? Okay, now as shown in Figure 1, in this slide I would like to show you the determination of equilibrium exchange rate. Let's review the equation, PP equation again. Purchasing power parity implies that exchange rates equal to the level of relative average prices across countries, right? So how to illustrate the formula with diagram? So here I draw a diagram to illustrate how to express, how to demonstration the PPP equation. Okay, so according to the PPP equation, the current exchange rate, the exchange rate should equal to the level of relative average prices across country, right? That means the capital E must equal to PUS over PEU, right? So how to illustrate or demonstration the equation? So here I draw a diagram to illustrate equation. As you can see, in this diagram, capital E represent current exchange rate, and on the vertical axis, while on horizontal axis, here we have the relative level of relative average prices across countries. PH stands for the price, the level of average prices in home country. PF represent the level of average prices in foreign country, right? So here we can use the 45-degree line. Here I draw a 45-degree line, right? Why? The 45-degree line can help us to find the equation. Any point located in 45-degree line, as we know, the main feature, one of the main feature with 45-degree is any point which is located on 45-degree line. We can draw the line to two axes, right? From the point located in a 45-degree line, we can draw to measure the distance from 45-degree line, the point of 45-degree line to the horizontal axis or vertical axis. They will have the same distance, right? They have the same distance. The same distance means any point located in the 45-degree line, we can conclude they will have the same distance from the point to two axes, right? That's why how to illustrate the 45-degree line equation. The 45-degree equation must equal to current exchange rate equals level of relative average prices, right? That's why if we can make sure we can determine the level of relative average prices across countries on horizontal axis through the 45-degree line, we can find the related current exchange rate, E star, like E star. Now, in this session, I would like to introduce the monthly approach. Here, we will cover monthly approach to exchange rates. In previous class, we cover the money market, right? Money market. Because in financial market, we cover several important markets, right? Such as forex markets, stock markets, and money markets, right? So in money market section, we construct a monthly model to illustrate or to discuss how money market achieve an equilibrium. Now, we will apply the concept of money market into the monthly approach. Okay, what is monthly approach? A monthly approach to the exchange rates, we will use monthly factors to make prediction and discuss how exchange rates would adjust in the long run. Okay, now here I would like to illustrate the PPP, combine the PPP theory. Here we will use the absolute version of PPP. According to the absolute version of PPP, like we went through in previous slide, if PPP holds true, what does that mean? That means the level of relative average prices, across countries determine current exchange rate, right? That's why I use the formula, also the figure, to illustrate my point. The equation, if the formula holds true, that means the PPP will hold true. So we call the version of PPP, we call the absolute version of PPP, right? Now, we will here in this session, we will add the money market equilibrium condition across countries. Okay, now how can we do that? According to the absolute version of PPP, we can predict levels of average prices across countries adjust so that the money supply, aggregate real money supply will equal to the aggregate real money demand. Now, let's construct the money market in equilibrium in the US. Also, money market in equilibrium in the EU. So as you can see, let's review. When money market, US money market achieve equilibrium, aggregate real money supply must equal to the aggregate money demand, right? So here we make some change, right? We just move the price of US, the level of average prices in the US to the left-hand side, and move the aggregate real money demand in the US, move to the right-hand side. Okay, so we can rewrite the equation. So the PUS level of average prices in the US must equal to money supply, aggregate money supply in the US divided by the aggregate real money demand in the US. Actually, if you forget how to get the formula, how to derive formula, you can refer to the money market section. From the money market section, we realize when money market achieve an equilibrium, aggregate real money supply must equal to the aggregate real money demand. We only rewrite the equation. Okay, make some changes, right? So the level of average prices in the US must equal to money supply, aggregate money supply in the US divided by aggregate real money demand in the US. Also, how about in the EU money market? Again, aggregate real money demand in the EU must equal to the aggregate real money supply in the EU, right? And we can rewrite the equation again so that we can get the level of average prices in the US will equal to aggregate money supply divided by aggregate real money demand in the US. Almost the same concept. The level of average prices in EU will equal to aggregate money supply in EU divided by aggregate real money demand in EU. Now, according to the two equations and the combined previous equation, the previous equation is here. Dollar to euro exchange rate must equal to level of average prices across countries, right? And we replace PUS by money supply, aggregate money supply in the US divided by aggregate real money demand in the US on the numerator. On the denominator, we replace the P France by aggregate money supply in France divided by aggregate real money demand in France. That's why we can get the new equation. Okay, let's back to the new equation. Okay, according to the previous equation, combine the two equations, we can derive the new equation. The new equation is, as you can see, so the current exchange rate, dollar to euro exchange rate, will be level of average prices across countries, right? And we replace PUS by money supply in US divided by aggregate real money demand in the US, and divided by aggregate money supply in the EU divided by aggregate money demand in the EU, and then rewrite the equation. Finally, we can get the new equation. The new equation, as you can see, the bottom equation in this line. Let me illustrate the bottom equation in this line. Okay, so the current exchange rate will equal to level of average prices across countries, and the level of average prices across country will equal to aggregate money supply in the US divided by aggregate money supply in EU times aggregate real money demand in EU divided by aggregate real money demand in the US. It's very important for us to understand the new equation. The new equation we call multi approach. According to the equation, we can make prediction or figure out what influences, what factors will affect current exchange rate according to the equation or multi approach. So let me illustrate the equation again. To the degree that PPP holds and to the degree that prices adjust to equate the aggregate real money demand supply with the aggregate real money demanded, we can have the following prediction. The following prediction is the current exchange rate is determined in the long run by prices, which are determined by relative supply and the demand in real money asset in the money market across countries. So from this equation, we can discuss what influences or factors will affect the level of average prices across countries, also affect the current exchange rate in the long run, right? So according to the equation, you will see, if you take a look at the equation in more detail, you will find out what influences will affect current exchange rate. The first one is money supply in the US, also money supply in EU, right? And the second one is interest rate, the euro interest rate and the dollar interest rate. And the third one is real national income in EU and the real national income in the US, right? Now, let's make a summarize. Here I want to summarize what factors will affect current exchange rate. So here we can make predictions. The predictions about the changes in the first one, money supply, right? The inferences come from the equation. Let's back to the previous equation again. So the current exchange rate will equal to the relative money supply across country and the relative aggregate money demand across countries, right? So money supply is the first factor, very important inference that will affect current exchange rate. Okay, now the first one is money supply. Money supply, because we discussed the long run scenario, so that's why we have to use what factors will cause a long run change. Long run change means a permanent rise. Permanent rise in the domestic money supply is a long run scenario, right? A permanent means the central bank will continue increase money supply year by year, not only once, but also every year. We should say every year the central bank will increase its money supply year by year. Okay, we call permanent rise scenario, right? The money supply represent if the central bank increases money supply at a permanent rise in domestic money supply, what happens? Let's back to the previous equation. So as you can see, if in the US, if the central bank of the US, we call Fed increases money supply, and all permanent rise the money supply, domestic currency in the US. So as you can see, that will increases money supply, MS, on numerator, right? Finally, will cause exchange rate to rise. So here I want to illustrate the exact channel. So the first one, a permanent rise in the domestic money supply, the channel is the policy will cause a proportional increase in domestic level or domestic price level, right? And the next step, causing a proportional depreciation in the domestic currency through PPP equation, right? And we also have the same prediction as a long-run model without the PPP. Okay, so here the first factor, how to affect long-run exchange rate. The first one is money supply. The domestic money supply increases will raise up the current exchange rate, cause exchange rate to rise, causing domestic currency to depreciate. And the second one is interest rates, right? A rise in the domestic interest rates, how to affect long-run exchange rate. As you can see, again, let's back to the previous equation. Let's focus on the interest rate. If the dollar interest rate increases, that will lower the aggregate real money demand in the U.S. money market. Finally, will cause exchange rate to rise, right? So here, let's figure out the channel, the exact channel between interest rates and the current exchange rate, right? So as domestic interest rate rises, that will lower the demand of real money assets, and it is associated with a rise in domestic prices, finally causing a proportional depreciation of domestic currency through a PPP equation. So here we can find out the positive relationship between interest rates and the domestic, with interest rate and the exchange rates. And the third one is upper level or real national income. This factor how to affect exchange rate, current exchange rate. As you can see, when upper level increases or a rise of domestic level of production and income, in this scenario, when domestic level of production income increases, that will rise the domestic demand of real money assets, right? And it is associated with the decreasing of level of average domestic prices for a fixed phase of quantity of money supplied. Okay, that means as real national income increases, that will raise up the aggregate real money demand. If we assume the money supply remain the same, finally will cause a proportional appreciation of domestic currency through PPP. So here we can find out the opposite relationship between the price level, upper level, and the current exchange rate, right? So as the upper level increases, real national increases, that will raise up the aggregate real money demand, right? And cause the price to fall. Finally, in the long run, that will cause exchange rate to fall, right? And cause domestic currency to appreciate. So all three changes affect money supply or money demand, and cause prices to adjust so that the aggregate real money supply must matches the aggregate real money demand, and also cause exchange rate to adjust according to PPP. Now, let's consider the other scenario. A change in money supply results a change in the level of average prices. A change of growth rate of money supply results in a change in the growth rate of prices. If we cover the growth rate, actually the phenomenon we call the inflation, right? Inflation. Not once, it's a permanent increase. Finally, will cause the growth rate of price be positive, right? A constant growth rate in the money supply results in a persistent growth rate in prices, or persistent inflation at the same constant rate, with other factors are constant. Okay, inflation does not affect productive capacity of economy and the real income from production in the long run. Okay. So next session we will cover what shortcomings of PPP if we apply a PPP theory into real life. Do you think the PPP theory or the concept will hold true in real life or not? In next session, let's discuss the shortcomings of PPP. When we apply the PPP theory into our real life scenario or situation, would you think about the PPP will hold true in our life situation? If PPP holds true, that means for the same good or the same service must sell the same price across all countries in the world. As we know, that's impossible for our real life situation. That's why here in that session we will cover shortcomings of PPP. In real life situation, there is the evidence shows there is a little empirical support for absolute purchasing power parity because the prices of identical commodities baskets, when converted to a single currency, usually we will convert it to the US dollars to measure the same basket of goods services across countries in the world. Actually, the evidence shows all the empirical study, empirical analysis shows we will face a differ substantially across countries. Why? That means the PPP theory will not hold true in real life situation. We will discuss later, okay? But if we transfer to the relative PPP, what is relative PPP? Absolute version PPP represent the level of relative average prices across countries determines current exchange rate, right? But now, if we change in percentage on current exchange rate and level of average prices across countries, actually we can rewrite the new formula for relative PPP. Relative PPP holds true means the change in percentage on current exchange rate will equal to the difference inflation rate across countries. That means the current exchange rate, change in current exchange rate will equal to change in level of average prices in domestic countries, right? Domestic countries we call inflation rate in the domestic countries, less interest rate, inflation rate on foreign country, right? We can change it in the percentage. So the new formula we call relative PPP equation. If we measure, we consider relative PPP equation, our real life situation or empirical study or analysis will prove the relative PPP will hold true in our life situation. Actually, it's not. Relative PPP is more consistent with the data, but it also performs poorly to predict exchange rate. I will show you the evidence. So as you can see in figure 2, figure 2 I show you the yen to dollar exchange rate and the relative Japan to US price levels from 1980 to 206. So as you can see from the line chart, the line chart shows two lines, right? The green line, the red line. The red line represent the pattern of current exchange rate, and the blue line represent relative average prices across countries. The two countries are Japan to US and the US, right? So as you can see, if PPP holds true, so the data, empirical data, should support PPP. The two lines must be consistent. They have the same pattern. But the real situation, as you can see, the red line deviates from the relative average prices across countries. level of relative average prices across countries. That means the PPP will not hold true. From this diagram, we will realize the real situation, right? And what reasons cause the PPP will not hold true in our life situation? So here I show you 3 main reasons. Reasons why PPP may not accurate. May not accurate means the low one price may not hold because of the first one, trade barriers and the non-tradable products. Let's review. When we cover in previous session, we went through the PPP theory or low one price. Actually, we set up several preconditions, right? If the preconditions holds true, we can imply the PPP or the low one price also holds true. But unfortunately, in our real life situation, these preconditions usually will not hold. For example, the first one, when we mention PPP theory, if PPP holds true, we have to consider there is no trade barriers across countries, right? It's important. It's very important for PPP holds true if the precondition is will be held. But unfortunately, most countries, they will set up some trade barriers to other countries. The trade barriers will cover import quota or tariff. The tariff is most popular to use the restriction policy for international trade, right? So import quota or export quota, tariff, and so on, right? And due to the trade barriers will cause the price difference across countries. Maybe we consider the tariff. So the foreign product, when we sell at the domestic country, people buy the product will pay a higher price than foreigners, right? That's why the price, the same good or the same service will not say the same price across countries. That's the first reason. Or non-tradable products, I will explain later. The second one, imperfect competition. Imperfect competition is very important. That's why it's the main reason. That's why PPP will not hold true. Let's check out the preconditions. If PPP holds true, we set up a very important condition is we assume all markets. In previous example, we assume it's a pizza market, right? We assume pizza markets are perfectly competitive markets, right? No one can dominate the price, either supplier or consumer, right? But in real life situation, for some product or most of that industry, they will have the power of dominate in the market, right? In other words, I should say, we will face lots of situation. We will face imperfect competition. Imperfect competition means maybe there is only a few entrepreneurs. They control the prices, right? Due to they have the power to control the price, and all consumers they are price taker, and the entrepreneurs or enterprises they are price maker, right? They can control price. So for different group consumers, they can sell different price across country. That's the other reason cause PPP will not hold true. I will explain later. And then the last one, the differences in measures of average prices for basket of goods and services is other main reason. When we discuss the PPP theory, actually according to the definition of PPP theory, the same basket of goods services must sell the same price across countries, right, in the world. But unfortunately, different countries will consider different basket of goods services because their most popular consume goods and services are different lifestyle, different consumer behaviors, different products, different resources. These reasons cause when we measure the level of every prices, we will use different basket of goods and services. We didn't have a standard all the same basket of goods services. It's very difficult for us to measure the level of every prices. They have two different the best point, best standard, right? That's why if we make comparison across countries to measure the level of every prices, because different countries use different basket of goods and services, that will cause a major error when we prove the PPP will hold true or not. So let me explain the three main reasons. The first one, trade barriers and the non-tradable products. As we know, when we mention the international trades, right, transportation costs or transport costs, all government trade restrictions are very important issue, right? Are very important issue. The restriction policies and the transportation costs, or transport costs, will make the trade expensive. In some cases, create non-tradable goods and services, right? For example, some countries will set up very severe restriction policy. They set up very higher tariff, the rate of tariff on some products, and finally cause the products sell the domestic countries. People have to pay very higher price due to the import tariff or the tariff rate, right? That's why the PPP will not hold true. Is one of the main reasons, right? And on the other hand, services. When we mention services, services are often not tradable, right? Such as here I give an example like haircuts. For example, a couple of years ago I've been visit Singapore. I have a haircut at Singapore. It's very expensive. Cost me over 3,000 NT, maybe over 3,000 NT. But I have my haircut in Taiwan. Actually, I only spend maybe 500 or 600 NT. So Singapore, the price of Singapore of haircut service is 5 or 6 times as the service in Taiwan, right? So due to the reason, can we export the haircut service to Singapore to make a profit? It's impossible, right? Because the services are often not tradable, right? That means services are generally operate within a limited geographic region, right? That's why different prices on services in different countries will have different prices. It's very common knowledge, right? It's a common knowledge. So we figure out the greater the transport costs, or the greater the range over which the exchange rate can deviate from its PPP value. That's why PPP will not hold true. So I show you the first reason why PPP will not hold true in our life scenario or situation, because most countries we will set up the restriction policy for international trade, right? The trade barriers will make a price difference across country. So the same goods, the same product will not sell the same price. We measure in the common currency across countries. That's why PPP will not hold true. The second one is due to when we measure a basket of goods and services. When we cover the services are often not tradable, right? That's why we also face the price difference on services, right? Just I mentioned the example on me, the haircut service in Singapore and in Taiwan. We have different price, but the haircut service are not tradable, right? And that's why we can conclude one price need not hold in two markets. And the second reason is imperfect competition. Imperfect competition. In previous slide, we mentioned when we construct the PP theory, we set up preconditions, very important condition. We assume the good markets or service market, they are competitive markets or perfectly competitive markets. Perfectly competitive markets means there are so many buyers and sellers, so many suppliers or consumers. They stay in the market. No one can dominate the price. All of them are price taker in competitive markets, right? And the price, the goods or service must be the same, indifference for all consumers, right? There's the features. These are features of the perfectly competitive markets. But unfortunately, in real life situation, we face imperfect competition. Imperfect competition may result in price discrimination. We call the price into markets. Price into markets means different markets will set up different price. Okay, for example, in one market, there are only a few suppliers or entrepreneurs control the market. They can set up higher price. At the other market, maybe there are so many suppliers or so many entrepreneurs provide the same product, right? They are very compete, so that the price is pretty lower, right? So different control power on different markets result in price discrimination, right? We call the price into markets. Okay, so a firm sell the same product for different prices in different markets in order to maximize their profit, based on the expectations about what consumers are willing to buy, right? If this market, the consumer will willing to pay more money to buy the goods or services, the entrepreneurs or enterprises can set up a higher price. Otherwise, they can set up the lower price. We call price into market. Due to the price into market, if the market are not perfectly competitive market, actually the same good will not sell the same price in different countries or in different markets. So one price need not hold in two markets. And the third reason is the differences in the measure of every prices for goods and services. So because when we mention the PPP, the definition of PPP is the same basket of goods and services must sell the same price. We measure in a common currency across countries, right? So from the definition, you will realize we have to consider the same basket of goods and services. But unfortunately, different country, people live in different countries, they have different culture type, different consumption behavior, different resources, due to so many difference, right? When we measure the level of every prices, we will choose different commodity or different baskets of goods and services, right? Why? For example, I give example to illustrate my point. In Taiwan, for the product or the good, maybe pork. In Taiwan, most Taiwanese will eat pork. They eat pork, right? But in Iraq, according to their religion belief, they will not eat pork, right? So the price of pork in Taiwan, the pork will consider one of the basket of goods and services will cover, right? So the pork price, the price of pork will cover one of the basket of goods and services in Taiwan. But for Iraq, maybe they don't eat pork, so that the pork will not they will not consider the price pork will be the one of the basket of goods and services when they measure the price of labor, right? That's why in CPI, when we calculate CPI, Consumer Price Index, in Taiwan, the price pork will be a very important factor, right? Or very important product when we measure the CPI. But in Iraq, maybe they will not cover, when they calculate CPI, CPI will not cover the pork, right? So that when we measure the price of labor, the price of every prices, the level of every prices in Iraq and in Taiwan, we have different basket to measure the level of every prices, right? So the level of every prices differ across countries because of differences how representative groups or basket for goods and services are measured. Because the measures of goods or goods and services are different, the measure of their average prices need not be the same. So that if we measure, when we measure the level of every prices, if we use different basket, not the same basket, actually the low one price will not hold true. Even PPP condition will not hold true. So that one price need not hold in two markets. And the last session here we have the case study. The case study is very important and very interesting for us to run PPP. So here I give you a practice of PPP. Due to the we have low one price or PPP theory, so here we have a very famous magazine, as we know, it's a well-known magazine, The Economist. Economist in 1986, the editor of Economist, they want to test the PPP or low one price will hold true or not in real life situation. So they invent an index to test low one price. Okay, the index we call Big Mac index. Why they choose the McDonald's Big Mac? Because McDonald's set a lot of branch in different countries. For different countries, they have different SOP. They have the SOP to produce the hamburgers, right? So the Big Mac index was invented by economists in 1986, and they want to measure the currency level. The currencies are their correct level, but they measure the Big Mac index based on the theory of purchasing power parity, right? And the notion of the long-run exchange rate should move towards the exchange rate will equalize the price of an identical basket of goods services. But in case here we use the Big Mac to illustrate low one price, to test low one price will hold true or not. Here I've provide some links. If you want to know more about the PP theory or Big Mac index, you can click on the website to visit the website on Economist website. Okay, and I also share 3 video clips on YouTube. You can watch the YouTube to watch the video clips. You will know more about Big Mac index and how to apply the concept of low one price for Big Mac, or we call the Burgonomics. Now here I would like to play one of the video for you, and you can watch the video. You will know. In today's case, I taught lots of content knowledge about the PPP or low one price, how to apply to our real life situation, how to test the PPP or low one price will hold hold to or not in our life situation. Now, let's watch the video clips right now.
Hello, I'm Louise Macaulay and welcome back to the Big Mac Index Report. Now, I'm sure you've seen the first edition, so you should have a little understanding of what this report is about. But just in case, this is a light-hearted index demonstrating which countries the FX market has blessed with a cheap currency, or as the case may be, an expensive one. So in this BMI edition, we're going to be comparing 3 currencies with the US dollar, the Norwegian kroner, the Chinese yuan, and the Russian ruble. So let's begin. The Big Mac is $7.68 US dollars in Norway. If we multiply that by today's exchange rate, we get the price in kroners. We then have to divide the price in kroners by the price in US dollars to get the PPP rate. So as you can see from the calculations that we've just done there, the Norwegian kroner is a massive 105% above its PPP rate, making it the most overvalued currency against the US dollar. Now at the other end of the scale, the Chinese yuan is massively undervalued by 46%. The Russian ruble, again, it's undervalued by 35%. So what does this mean for fast food junkies in Oslo, Beijing and Moscow? Well, based on an average net wage in Oslo, an individual would have to work for 21 minutes, and in Moscow, coming in at exactly the same, 21 minutes. However, workers in Beijing have to work more than double to get their hands on that Big Mac. They must work for 44 minutes. So that's the end of this BMI edition. Keep an eye out for the next one, but in the meantime, there is plenty more economic news releases here on Dukascopy TV. Goodbye for now.
Thank you for watching the video clips. After you watching the video clip, you will realize the exact relations between PPP theory and the Big Mac Index. That's all we have for today's class. Thank you for your participation.